This is TWiT.
Remember, Apple at its last event had John Hodgman, the PC from the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads, as they had him as a PC, but at least they were paying for him. Intel has hired, and I'll play one of these for you. Justin Long.
Don't show Alex because the compositing is so bad it's going to hurt him.
Really? Is it that bad? Here we go.
Some of them, they have the screens on top of the guy's hands.
Let me wait a minute. I got to get my sound to come out of the right hole. Hold on a second. That's the only problem with Linux. Sometimes you have to tell it what to do. Here we go. This is Justin Long.
Hello, I'm Justin. Just a real person doing a real comparison between Mac and PC. Come on. Okay.
So, first of all, I hate you now, Justin. I just want you to know. You've gone over to the other side, and you
remember him. That's good.
You are now an enemy.
I hate him for a different reason, because he's definitely been like using moisturizer, because he doesn't look like he
looks the same freaking age.
Yes.
Well, when you're young, aging doesn't happen quite as quickly.
Let me see. Oh, cool. This whole thing's a touchscreen. And there's another one too. Wow. All right. And now for Mac. Let's see. Oh, you've got a little bar here. A little baby one.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, where's the mute button?
Here's what I found on how to cook mutton.
Oh, no, I don't want to cook mutton. What even is that?
That's, by the way, the best part of the whole series.
Yeah, that's... we don't have much to say against any of those points.
He accidentally, because touch bar hits it, and Siri launches, and then it says, here's how to cook mutton. So that's kind of my experience with the touch bar as well, I might add.
I will admit that is my experience of the touch. Mostly my experience is, how do I turn all this off? How do I get this to stop? Yeah. You know, like because I'm constantly. I think that the biggest problem with the touch bar is that it's constantly changing what it's doing, and you're constantly accidentally hitting it. So
we had we had two Intel guys on Windows Weekly last week, because it's Windows Weekly, and I asked him, well, and I think maybe Paul asked him, what's the reaction to the M1? And they actually said exactly the right words, which is, we're taking this as a challenge, and it invigorates us because of competition. But
Can't they just be honest and say it has zero market share and we're not even thinking about it?
Yeah. No, they probably are thinking about it, because I don't know how long it'll have zero market share. Certainly there are Windows people look at the battery life and the cool operation and the speed of the M1 and go, gee, that'd be nice to have.
Well, I mean, the hard part is just the perception. I don't think that Intel's problem is really even, Apple as much as it's just perception of them getting knocked down.
Right.
And if they keep on getting whacked,
AMD did that.
AMD's done it too. So now I think it's two blows.
But I think that, and really showing that they can't. I think Intel tried to live for as long as they could on the fact that they had a better chip. AMD was cheaper. Yeah. They had a better one. All things equal, if they lose all aspects of that, which they've lost most of already, if they lose all aspects of it, it really has a value proposition problem for them. In down the road, and not just in the Apple market. They're not. I don't think the Apple market means anything to them. As much as the perception that the M1 is pulling away and they can't figure out a way to do it. And the problem that they have is that, how do you do that? Like, how do you fix the problem when you need to own the operating system and you need to have a singular development platform, and you need to be able to make the hardware that it goes into. You need to make all those things, and there's only one company in the world that does that.
So bad.
But this is why
it's not just bad.
This is why these are good ads. They're smart ads, because you're right. So they double down on the one thing Intel has going for them, the PC industry has, which is variety. So
but that's not Intel specific. Those are Windows and vendor differentiation.
I agree, but
they're a commodity in that equation.
I agree. They're running on Intel, but the point is, I think, reasonable, that if you can't say we're optimized because we own the whole stack, as Apple can, you say, well, but there's a virtue in not only owning the whole stack, which is variety. And that's really true. In the Windows world, there's variety. There's a lot of variety.
I think
it doesn't play to its strengths.
But as the new chips come out, it's going to just the spread is going to get a lot further. That's the problem. And I think that
that's why they're doing this now, by the way.
Why they have to get ahead of this is because it'll be really complicated a year from now. Again, none of us, I expected when Apple puts out these silly little chips, I'm going to buy a bunch of Intel machines so that I can stock up and deal with Apple screwing this up for 2 or 3 years. And we immediately did a full stop on buying anything else with Intel when we saw what once I got a Mini immediately, tested it, and we're like, okay, we're not going to buy any more Intel machines. And
would you consider AMD?
Well, I mean, on our PC stuff, sure.
Is it a vote against Intel or a vote against x86?
I don't think the whole platform has any. I think it competes right now. I think by the time we get to a Mac Pro in 18 months,
it's really a vote for Apple Silicon, is what it is. Not a vote against. It's a vote for Apple Silicon.
Yeah, I just don't see. I guess I don't see how they fix the problem. It's not just that Apple's ahead. It's that I can't calculate a way that the PC manufacturers can. They can't. It will take them 10 years because it took Apple 10 years. It took Apple 10 years to get to this chip, and it's going to take them 10 years. And that 10 years requires them to all get along and all agree and all build a consortium.
You know who could
what are
do
the chances of that?
In fact, the only company that could do it is Microsoft, because they at least own the software stack.
They'd have to buy up Intel
or make a deal with Qualcomm. I think more likely, and I think you'll see this, they're already working with Qualcomm. They'll make a deal with Qualcomm to do a custom Windows chip. Now, can Qualcomm?
But how long would that
doesn't
take?
have the advantages that Apple has either.
I agree.
I mean, so the thing is just to get to version 1, it will take them 4 or 5 years, and Apple is already running down the path. That's the.
Do you think that if they can get the process down? I mean, that's one of the problems Intel has. Its process is still 14 nanometers, barely 10.
It's 6 years behind schedule. I think.
So if they get the process down, and if they can get the cores up, and if they can get the
it's because it's the integrated RAM.
Well, they can do that.
The architecture.
They can do that. You could do unified memory with an Intel chip
at that many gigs. I mean to build the whole thing, and then all the apps and the OS
is hard for Intel.
AMD's doing. They're doing it in unified memory architecture is not new. It's been done in the consoles for a couple of generations.
AMD's interesting,
and they're
doing it things too.
And they're doing it with x86 architectures. So there's nothing to stop them from doing unified memory. GPUs, that's interesting. Do Apple's GPUs compete with NVIDIA ray tracing or AMD's top of the line?
Not right now.
Not yet. Performance efficiency, but not in terms of overall power.
Yeah.
But as an integrated solution, I just think that they're going to have a hard time, and I don't think that they can. I don't think the performance can keep up. Like I think it's not there yet. I mean, but they're really fast right now, and that was the first little ones that they put out. And so now
they should be worried. I agree. Yeah,
I think everybody should be terrified on that side because because the thing is that once Apple gets out ahead, it's not like an upstart who came out with this really fast computer that you can buy or you can compete with scale or whatever.
Right.
Apple is bigger than all of them, and now it's running faster and is ahead. If all that math is very scary.
On the other hand, Alex, and I'll be a little devil's advocate because I've been arguing your position for a long time in Windows Weekly. On the other hand, the response to that is, but Intel chips are more than fast enough for what people do. I mean, it's not like you're gaining a lot of overhead that suddenly people are going to find, maybe they will, new ways to use all this overhead.
Not the speed.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Intel, and this is really the point that Paul Thurrott makes again and again, it still satisfies people. It's still getting the job done. It's still going to be the mass market computing platform. I
don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But the problem is that when you start losing the opinion of everyone.
Well, only certain
that is people. Yeah, but publicly, you're gonna, it's gonna be one of those things that they're really getting constantly bashed for being behind. It's a mountain that's really it's just hard to turn that.
I agree with you. The hard thing is that they don't control the stack, and controlling the stack is something that Apple can do, and uniquely.
Could you do the first 10 seconds of my second to last video, or the first 20 seconds of my second to last video? Because this was my favorite thing about the Intel commercials.
Rene Ritchie commenting on the
the one that says Intel attack.
This is the one where you go after the composition.
But not just that, it's because it works so well for Apple.
Okay, here we go. Rene Ritchie, the first few seconds of his video.
Wait, what is that? Hold up. Zoom, enhance, zoom, enhance, zoom, and holy.
Wait a minute, are they running a Mac? That's Big Sur.
Keep watching.
This is all fake. Intel screwed up and photoshopped the bezels off the MacBook. That looks good. Sponsored by Brilliant.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to see that again. Are you kidding me? In that ad?
They rushed to do the compositing, and they composited all the bezels off the MacBook.
Oh, I see. It's a
bezel-less.
I see. So this is the Mac that he's showing, not a Windows machine.
Yes.
But there's no bezels. So maybe this is the new MacBook that they already have access to that we don't.
No, Ryan tweeted about it later. They said that they were rushed and they couldn't get the compositing right because in one of the scenes, also like the keyboard on the Asus is floating over his hands.
Oh man, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the fact that they're rushing out, that they didn't have enough time, shows you panic.
Yeah.
Like it's, the fact that they didn't say, oh, we'll wait another week to get the compositing right, or we'll wait another whatever. Like, what are they?
Well,
why were they in a rush?
It's a little late. They should have done it right at the beginning before the benchmarks showing an M1 beating an i9 came out. It would have been a lot more credible.
But don't you think?
And again, I think that
a critical mistake. Like I wouldn't have done this at all. Like I would not have gone back to get a Mac. I would have gone back to Intel Inside and just shown like a bunch of really amazing Intel PCs.
Right.
Or don't even start the Apple or the AMD, and then at the end slow pan onto a Mac Pro and just say every powerful computer runs Intel, and then just drop the mic and walk away.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that you're putting weight on the Mac Pro, and when it stops, it's going to be
you got a year.
And I think
they'll forget all about it by then.
Again, I think that the issue is that it's not their competitor is AMD, not Apple. It's that the perception of size and scale is really and some kind of technical lead is really important to Intel, and they've lost it almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And if they publicly get whacked over and over again, it's not that Apple's going to overtake them; it's that AMD is going to overtake them. And they're not going to be able to get the perception back to where it was before. And I think that's the challenge.
Yeah. Well, you also have to think about this is you have to the diplomatic purpose of these commercials. They're not fighting Apple here. Realize that Mac OS is no longer the number 2 operating system in the world. It's now the number 3 operating system in the world. But I feel as though they need to have a way of telling all of the different manufacturers who build based on Intel, hey, look, we're fighting for you. We've committed our marketing budget towards helping you sell your laptops based on our chips, and so they kind of have no alternative but to try to chalk up the entire platform as opposed to a single CPU. And the best target is, of course, a Mac, because it's the other one that has a lot of marketing money behind it. So at least it shows that there is, and it shows to the people who are doing business with you that you are investing in the platform. You're investing in also the messaging behind the platform. Even though really a lot of the discussions that we're having about the M1 versus AMD versus Intel it really is a lot like when the 3 guys on Top Gear talk about the power plant inside these 3 different cars. Most people absolutely don't care about all these little differences. What they care about is I'm in the store or I'm on Amazon. I've got $730. I might be able to stretch that to $800. What can I get? And here are my needs. After that, it just doesn't matter to them what kind of silicon is under the hood.
It's true. It pains the hell out of me. I on the radio show and say stop buying Windows, but it doesn't convince anybody.
I mean, from a business perspective, it's the margins though are so small on the people who are passionate are the ones buying computers that have margins. Like the people who are not passionate are buying ones that have almost zero
same
margin.
for phones,
and that just makes it really, really complicated to build business models around. It's just hard to innovate when you have nothing to.
Well, you make it up in
with.
volume. I mean, you have a small margin if you're HP or Intel, or Lenovo or Dell, but you sell a hell of a lot more computers than Apple does, and you make it up on margin. I mean, this past month there've been multiple 0 days. It's really been a nasty security environment for Windows. People call me all the time and say I did the Windows update and my printer. There was a big flaw in the last Windows update. We had it. If you had printers from Kyocera or Ricoh or a number of laser printer models, Windows would blue screen when you tried to print. It's not that you couldn't print. The whole system would crash to its knees. I mean, this is a very fragile...
And this is an update that it forces you to do.
Yes, and it's a very...
That's the thing.
Yes, it was a security update. Microsoft's fixed it since, but this is a very kind of fragile ecosystem. And I always... Basically what I say on the radio show is, if you have an IT department, fine, and you need it for your business, fine. If you're willing to be your own IT department, fine. But most people just want something that works. The problem is... Right. the default is still Windows. It's like, well, that's everybody buys Windows. Windows is a PC. That's a computer, right? Oh, I'm not a Mac. Mac's for fancy people. It's expensive. I can't. It's not for me. And so I think that's the problem. It's a perception problem, and I don't think that's going to be overcome. In fact, I wonder if those ads are even aimed at consumers as much as they're aimed at the OEMs, saying, "See, see, just like you said, Andy, we really we make great processors. OEMs, keep making your great computers."
I also wonder whether they use the actor to make sure that he doesn't end up, because now, of course, he's burned, from an Apple perspective.
Can't do on a Mac anymore. Yeah, maybe they saw
Nobody
Hodgman at the
remembers him,
event
though.
and they
It's
said,
so weird.
get me Justin Long, quick.
Well, I mean, you can't,
burn
like,
him.
literally, it could have been I expected Justin Long back with Hodgman.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been great?
when I saw Hodgman there, I was like, oh, I think that this is going to be, Apple's just going to pummel them next year. Yeah.
They sure could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Apple doesn't like to go back to their old ways, right? They want to do a new campaign.
That would have been a fun one.
I mean,
although they've got a new chip.
What's really
they're doing a think different style campaign right now, aren't they? With all those famous people in black and white shots. So maybe they do.
It's really weird though, because there's very few people who are like, we all remember the I'm the Mac commercials. Most mainstream customers now don't. Like, a lot of people were asking who it was, and he comes out saying I'm a Justin, which is it's not a mainstream thing now. Kids are on TikTok these days. They're not watching old Apple commercials.
Yeah, you're right. We know what it was. No one else. Yeah.
And then it's called Justin Gets Real, but all the composites are badly done to the point that it looks fake. So the entire thing to me seems like they rushed it out. It was ill-conceived, ill-considered, ill-executed. And I want Intel back so badly. I want I want a competitive environment where AMD and Intel and Apple and Qualcomm are all, vying for our attention and our money. And this is just not a good Intel.
Yeah.
It's like making the execs happy. This is the ad you make to make your executives happy, not to improve.
I mean, somebody said, it feels like somebody just said, we have to respond. Like, we have to respond. We have to respond. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Like, somebody's got to do something right now. And then there was a whole bunch of people running around.
I bet, despite the fact that you're right, most people don't know who Justin Long is and didn't get the reference, I bet they were successful ads, because the fundamental point they were making is true. There's a lot more variety in the PC ecosystem, period.
Yeah.
And
that question is,
Apple's getting sued now in a class action lawsuit because of their crappy butterfly keyboards. The touch bar, very few people love the touch bar. I think that they targeted reasonable things on the Apple side and showed the one big strength the PC side has, which is variety. So in that respect, they were successful.
The two things that hurt me as a marketer were, one, Coke never does Pepsi, never mentions Pepsi, never does the Pepsi challenge. It's not what a market leader does. And second, you always want to advertise your strengths, and every strength they advertised was the strength of Windows and PC vendors, nothing to do with Intel. So in one foul swoop, to make their executives feel better, they said, we are no longer the market leader, and we are also a commodity part. Thank you, good night. And it just broke my heart as a marketer.
That's a good point, yeah.
Like I said, I doubt it was to I doubt it was promoting Intel. I do think it was, again, part of the discussions that you have when you have these contracts is to say, not only are we going to give you engineering, not only are we give you our technology, but we have a marketing budget that will help you promote how well your hardware is going to be because it uses our products inside it. So I don't at the level of Intel, I don't think that they're quite that thin-skinned. But I do agree that this was pretty misguided, and that they could have done a lot more to promote the Intel platform devices to consumers than what they did right now. I agree that I will give them kudos for saying, thank you, Apple, for investing tens of $20 million in creating an advertising brand or an advertising sort of trade dress that we could easily hook onto 10 years later. However, it really is. It's what happens when you're locked in a conference room for years and years and years, and you don't spend a lot of time, again, hanging out at coffee shops near college campuses. You don't spend a whole lot of time hanging out at public libraries and seeing how your technology helps people that are actually on the ground there, because they had a lot more to do, a lot more to say.
They're also, I might say, fighting a battle in a war that's been over for a while, because it's really the mobile arena. If you what you're talking about is young people, they're not buying PCs or Macs. Might be buying iPads. Really, they're buying phones, and most of their computing.
Well, you can't TikTok on a PC, Leo.
Exactly.
But this means that Apple's canceling that Mac Pro update, doesn't it? Like, there's no way they're going to roll out a new Intel chip after those commercials, right?
I doubt that they were going to do anyway. I mean, I think
as far as I know, they were going to do one last update to the Mac Pro before it went M1. And I don't know if they will now.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't know of anybody that, I mean, I know there's nobody I know that would buy one now. Once they saw the M1, no one's going to want to upgrade no one's going to want to touch their Mac Pro. I mean, you know, and I'm sure that it was worth whoever bought it. It's worth the money they put into it. If they didn't amortize it over 2 years, they shouldn't have bought it, right? So it's not. So they got a good value out of it. But I think that no one's going to invest after they saw the M1. Everyone knows that whatever it is, M2, 3, 4, 1X, 1Z, whatever that ends up being in the Mac Pro is going to be so fast and so big that whatever comes out as the new one, that no one wants to invest now.
They leaked. There was Big Navi and the Intel stuff in some boot report that somebody found in the operating system. But I'm guessing that's not happening.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Huh.